going to be very difficult, because he is complacent. Complacent means he thinks I am satisfied, especially even if he manages to come to the Sattva-guna, the characters of Sattva-guna is knowledge and happiness. So he wants that much knowledge that will keep him happy. So he is not interested in going beyond that. So that's the problem with the three modes. They will not help us to go to the transcendental position unless you take to devotion, and that too it should be according with the scriptures. So Arjuna is inquiring about unauthorized worship. So people generally are not interested in worship at all. So what do you mean by unauthorized worship? Worship means using our body, mind, and words. First of all, we should understand that this body, mind, and words, whatever we are using, faculty of the senses, has been gifted to us by God. Hmm? So therefore, naturally, we have to engage it in his service. And that is the meaning of worship. But people think that the body has been provided to them by chance, and we can use it whatever way we want, whatever words we can want, whatever we want, we can do. So that is known as unauthorized worship. So why are they doing like that? Because those who have some faith, they believe in something. If you ask anyone, even every dog has its own religion. That is the famous saying, which means everyone is acting according to some belief, and he thinks that is the best. Hmm? But the problem is it is based on not based on the scriptures. So one may question, is it so important? And that's why Arjuna is asking that question about the unauthorized worship of those who have some faith which is not based on scripture. So one may ask, who has to authorize my worship? I am free to do whatever I want. I'm free to choose whichever method of worship or whichever scripture, whichever God. So, but the point is, it has to be authorized by the Supreme Lord, because He is the one who is maintaining and protecting us from time immemorial. Hmm? And so He has provided the scriptures. So Arjuna's inquiry is, what about these people? So then Krishna says that the three modes determine one's fate, Shraddha and worship. So if they don't accept the scripture, immediately they come under the influence of the three modes of material nature. Sattva guna, Rajoguna, Tamoguna are passion, goodness, passion, and ignorance. So basically, at every step in our life, we have only two choices. It looks like we have no choices or many choices, but basically, the choice is between putting our faith in God, Krishna, or putting our faith in ourselves or others. No? So the three modes determine one's faith and worship. Worship, as in again I'm saying, worship means how we are utilizing our body, mind, and words or senses to progress in life. Now, accordingly, the foods they eat, because without eating food, we cannot maintain our body. And the soul also becomes restless. So basically, there are 5 levels of consciousness. One is known as Annamaya consciousness. Annamaya means when we are born, first thing we are interested in is food. That is, we want to drink the mother's milk. So Annamaya, then Pranamaya means we are always afraid whether something will come and kill me. Like the animals, they're fearful. Annamaya, Pranamaya, then Manomaya. That is, we start thinking. As a child, we don't think much, but as we grow up, we start thinking, analyzing, like and dislike. That is Manomaya. We start using the mind. And then we have Jnanamaya, that is, we start using our intelligence. Then we become Vijnanamaya, realized knowledge. Intelligence is there, but realized knowledge. Then higher than that is Anandamaya. This Anandamaya is possible only in the liberated stage. We can go up to Vijnanamaya, that is to realize that I am the spirit soul. But to get real happiness, one has to go beyond the three modes. So Annamaya, or food consciousness, is the lowest level. So that also we choose to eat different types of food. There are 84 lakh species. They choose to eat different foods, and what is making them choose that particular food? Because of the influence of the three modes. So the influence starts there itself. And then next is sacrifice. Sacrifice means in this world is designed such a way that we have to give up something to get something. Even if I have to walk forward, I have to leave one leg and put one leg forward. If I want to eat, I have to excrete something, then only I can start eating. If you have a constipation, we cannot eat. So the world is designed that we have to give up something to get something. So that is also designed by the three modes. According to my three modes, I will choose what to accept, what to reject. Then next it talks about the Austerity, three types of austerity. That is austerity of the body, austerity of the mind, austerity of the speech. So like that, there are three types. So in those austerity also, we have three modes. That is how we speak can also be in three modes. How we austerity the mind also can be in three modes. So like that, austerity of the body can be in the three modes. Next is charity. Charity means, okay, voluntarily we want to give it some others, no? Whatever benefits we are getting, we want to share that benefits with others. No? So that is also governed by the three modes of material. In other words, whatever we are doing in this world is being governed by the three modes, starting from the food, the penances, the austerity, the charity. Everything is governed by the three modes if it is not directed by the scriptures. So the conclusion of this chapter is Om Tat Sat. Om Tat Sat means the supreme absolute truth. What is supreme absolute truth? It is eternal. First quality of supreme absolute is eternal. That's known as Sat. Then Chit, knowledge. And Ananda means bliss. And Vigraha means form. So only when these four are there in completeness, then we can say it is absolute. Otherwise, it becomes relative. Om Tat Sat indicates the supreme absolute truth, Vishnu. Why Vishnu? Because Vishnu means Vishuddha Sattva or transcendental goodness. So the conclusion is any sacrifice, charity, or austerity done without faith in the Supreme is impermanent and is asset. So if you don't put your faith in God or put your faith in scriptures, then our faith will be governed by the three modes, and that will be forced to change. So in this life you may be a Christian, next life you are Islam, next life Hindu, like that, keep or no faith, atheist, or even in this lifetime itself you can change your faith, and even in the particular religion you have subdivisions. So like that, it's always changing with time. That's why it says impermanent. So we are not able to fix our goal in anything. We are not able to fix our process, and we are not able to fix our identity also in this world. So the previous chapter, Krishna has established the faith empowers faithful followers of scriptures are divine, and that the faithless are demoniac. The faith is like a foundation. Supposing you are building a huge building, then the foundation is important. The foundation should be on the scriptures. Otherwise, you will be asuric. Asuric means you are shortening your lifespan in this world. Our existence, this material world, has been from time immemorial, and we have to survive. Means we have to establish a strong foundation, and that should be based on scripture. Even if you say, I don't want to go anywhere, I want to remain in this material world, you have to accept the scriptures. That's why even demons like Hiranyakashipu, Hiranyakaksha, they also were well learned in the scriptures. So in the 16th chapter, 23rd verse, Krishna concluded that those who disregard scriptures and behave whimsically, the moment you disregard scriptures, naturally you will start thinking what I can do, how I can do, and whatever your mind feels or whatever others feel is right, that you act accordingly and do not attain happiness in this life or the next. Neither you are happy in the present nor in the future. That is known as lamentation and hankering. Lamentation means you are always thinking about what I lost, and hankering means you are thinking about what I should get next. So in this chapter, Arjuna asked Krishna about the fate of those who have some other faith. Why? How do I know that they have faith? Because they are able to stabilize in some activity. You go around and see people around you, they are doing something or the other. They may not be doing devotion, or they may not be following scripture strictly. They may not have a strict faith, but they are doing something, which means they have some faith. But it is not based on the scriptures. In response, Krishna describes about faith and various other items in these three modes. So, in chapter 16, Krishna described our people of two extremes. Those who have scriptural faith, they are known as the divine. The first three qualities of the divine personality is that first is following the regulative principles according to the scriptures, and he is pure. Two more are there, and the faithless, they are demoniac. He describes those who are in the middle, that is with non-scriptural faith, which means they have some belief system, they have some values. In school, we go, and even many schools, they teach morals and they give you some values, value education system. But If you deeply analyze, it is not based on any scripture. It has been designed by a set of people who think that is morality. Hmm? So this is very important because we see a lot of problems because the script is not based on the scripture. Arjuna's inquiry about unauthorized worship. Repeatedly, I am saying worship means engaging our body, mind, and words. If you are not utilizing it properly, if you are not utilizing your body, mind, and words, then it's known as unauthorized worship. It's not. Arjuna asked Krishna, what is the situation of those who do not follow the scripture but worship according to their own faith? Are they in goodness, in passion, or in ignorance? Because in the 14th chapter, we talked about the three modes of material nature. Now, first of all, to overcome the three modes of material nature, at least you should know where you are situated. Supposing you want to go to a particular place, the first thing is you have to put your start location. Similarly, if we know according whether we are in goodness, passion, ignorance, then we can choose our varnashrama, that is our spiritual and social order. Then we can, by that system, established system, we can expect to progress in life. Krishna will first explain the situation of those who worship without giving up the rules of scripture. So then Krishna is talking about those who follow the scriptures. After that, he will speak about the condition of those who give up the rules of scripture. In other words, Krishna is first giving the rest as the earlier chapter. Krishna talked about the divine qualities first, and then he spoke to the demoniac qualities. Similarly, in this chapter, Krishna is talking about those who worship according to the rules of scripture, and then he talks about those who do not worship according to the rules of scripture. Just like we then Krishna starts by explaining that how the modes determine one's faith or Shraddha. What is faith? Faith means something, putting our trust in something very sublime. So people say, I have my own faith, but faith will immediately evaporate with time. A particular condition arises, we give up that faith or belief system. That's what is happening in our life. We are constantly changing our faith. So real faith means, Shraddha means unflinching trust in something sublime. Uh, it should be something which will elevate you. That is the real meaning of faith. So the problem is these three modes determine one's faith and worship. These two are related, faith and worship. Your belief systems and your values based on which you work in this execute. People have three types of faith. Shraddha that arise from their acquired nature as Swabhava. We have a original Swabhava, that is the spiritual platform, and the acquired Swabhava is according to the body we possess. The body is governed by the three modes, so that is known as our acquired Swabhava. Hmm? Supposing I am driving a car, depending on the vehicle I choose, my speed is determined by the vehicle. So similarly, the soul has its original nature, that's known as Siddha Surupa, and it has another Surupa which is based on the body it has acquired. So how does it acquire the body? Due to previous impressions by the influence of the modes. So in the previous bodies, the soul has developed some impressions and that govern the present body and the present impressions. So it's all connected. Whatever we believe now is dependent on whatever experiences we had in the past. So therefore, it is very difficult to come out of that experience. That's why people are not able to progress because they judge everything based on their past. So they are not able to think beyond the past. So all their thoughts are revolving in the past. All their analysis. This is a major problem in science also. Science does not progress when people are remaining within the box, they call it. In the box, within the box mentality. So this the influence of the modes is governed by the previous impressions. And how do the previous impressions form? Based on the past activities. Thus, one's faith can be in goodness, in passion, or in ignorance. Now, hear about this. But one's nature can be changed if one abides by the teachings of the bona fide spiritual master and scriptures. So what is the only way we can change our faith? Just like if you don't go to school or college, we will live with some value systems. We can't change it. But when you go and attend a college or a school or an experienced professor, then we start changing the faith. Similarly, if you want to come out of these three modes of material nature, like an animal which is also having faith in the three modes, then we have to begin to accept a spiritual master who is following the scriptures. Gradually, one can change his position from ignorance to passion to goodness. So why again this is important? Because we heard about karma, vikarma, and akarma. Karma means acting according to the scriptures. Vikarma means going against the scriptures. Always this is what is going on. Knowingly or unknowingly, people are either following or violating the scriptures. But what is important is akarma, that is to transcend the three modes of material nature, and that is possible only by following the scriptures and the bona fide spiritual master. Now, one's particular faith is evolved according to one's existence under the various modes. So, how is our faith changing depending on our present condition? And he becomes similar to whatever form he worships with such faith. And how does that faith become strong depending on my activities? Otherwise, I cannot say this is my faith unless I can demonstrate it by my activities. So I have a faith, and supposing I believe in 100 things, I may act only on 50 things. So that is really my definition of my faith. Although I say I believe in so many things, based on what I act, then only I can clearly define that is your faith. Everyone has a particular type of faith, regardless of what he is. In other words, originally he is the soul, but right now the faith determines his activities. According to his faith, one associates with certain persons. So how do you know a person's faith? By his company. A man is known by his company. Just like the animals, the birds are there, they come together. The dogs are there, they come together. All these species, they stay together because they have a set of faith. So according to his faith, one associates with certain persons. The real fact is that every jiva is originally a fragmental part of the Supreme Lord. Actually, we have to put our faith in God only because He is the one who is maintaining and protecting all living entities and is therefore transcendental to three modes. Why we should put our faith in God? Because He is the only one who is able to transcend the three modes all the time. And if we put our faith in Him, He can also help us to transcend the three modes. But when one forgets his relationship with the Lord in contact with the material nature, he generates his own position by association with the modes. The moment we disconnect ourselves from God, then immediately we come under the influence of the three modes and develop our own set of faith. The resultant artificial faith and existence are only material. Artificial faith means it is so-called faith. Externally, he projects himself as if he believes in some things. That's why we say walk to the talk, which means we talk something, but we are not able to act according to that. So we may claim to be following some faith, but if you deeply probe into the matter, we are not actually following it. And therefore, it is known as material, which means it is superficial or temporary. Now, based on the faith, we act according different ways. That's known as worship in different modes. So, what is mode of goodness? One worships demigods for a purpose. Another, the person, the mode of goodness, always is looking for a person above him. He's always looking for a person above him for direction. He doesn't really think about whom I should worship. As long as that person is more stronger than me, more intelligent than me, more richer than me, more beautiful, more famous, more renounced, I blindly follow. So that is known as a demigod. Demigod means he is not in the absolute position, but I think he's better than me, so enough for me. I can't do not think much beyond that person. So this is one kind of the mode of goodness. At least he's thinking about the one person superior to him. The next is in passion, one worships demons, which means he wants to achieve results. So whoever is able to achieve results, he blindly follows them. He doesn't care whether that person is really following the scriptures. As long as he is successful, it doesn't really matter whether he is following the rules or regulations. I will also blindly follow him. So this is known as in passion, one worships demons. And what about ignorance? One worships ghosts and spirits. In other words, he worships people who are already dead and gone. We can see some people, they are worshipping they keep photograph of person who was a demon, more or less you can say. But like Hitler, there are some people who do this, who worship ghosts and spirits. Because they're desperate, that even though that person is not existing, they think that that person will come. And for example, in Paris, France, one person was there. He was so attached to his wife that even after she died, he was preserving her body. He was not willing up to give up that body, and as a consequence, many ghosts and evil spirits were accumulated in that house. and he became so desperate that later he had to sell it off at a low price. So there are many instances like this. In the Second World War, one person was started worshipping Hitler in Calcutta because of Hitler there was Second World War, and because Second World War there was so much shortage of food, and because of that he could hoard the increase the price of the commodities and make a lot of profit. So the second to fourth verse, Krishna describes those who have given up scripture out of laziness or because the required worship was troublesome. So some people, although they know this is the scripture, they are very lazy. Just like some students are there, they are given the books, they have a very good professor, but they don't want to act on that. So even though scripture, they know the scripture, they give it up out of laziness or because the required worship was troublesome. They have to undergo some austerity which they are not willing to do. Yet faithfully worship the demigods. Then what they do, they set their own standards. If the standard is 100%, they will set their downgrade the standard and do something. That's what we find in many of our temples. Originally, the deity worship standard is very high, but since they could not do that, what they did, they compromised on these standards. In contrast, the verses 5 to 6 describe the demonic worship, which is against the Vedic practices. So this is the way this world. Then what about the austerity? Austerity means voluntarily you are accepting some troubles. In other words, uh, you don't want to do it, but you want to do it because you know there is some benefit of it. But this can be demoniac also. What is the demonic austerity? Not recommended in the scriptures, but done out of pride and ego with ulterior motives. So we can see there are some demoniac people, they can undergo a lot of austerity, like Hiranyakashipu. He was doing so much austerity, the whole world was getting disturbed. But it is not recommended, it's not required. They undergo some fast and death, and but done out of pride and ego with ulterior motives, for instance, to promote political or social end. There are some political activists, they undergo some austerities to get their fulfill their demands. They put a demand before the government, and if it's not fulfilled, then they go on strike, hunger strike, or some strike, or they say that I'll burn, immolate myself. So then it is impelled by lust, attachment, and strength. So what is motivating them to do that austerity? They have a burning desire and they are attached to some things and they derive strength from that. And what do they do further? They foolishly torture the body as well as the super soul within. Just like when demon was there, he was cutting off all his parts of the body. He was worshipper of Lord Shiva. And when Shiva did not appear, he started cutting different limbs of his body and putting in the fire. Finally, he decided to cut off his head and put in the fire. At that time, Lord Shiva appeared and he said, "What do you want?" He said that I want a boon by which I can keep my hand on someone's head and immediately it will burst. So then Lord Shiva thought, I have to give him because I made him stop doing this austerity. So that story goes like that. So then what about the food? Even the food, sacrifice, austerities, and charities of people are of three kinds according to the three modes of material nature. Now hear about them. In other words, all our activities are governed by these three modes if we do not follow the scriptures or the spiritual master. One can make out a person's mode of faith by seeing his activities of eating, ahara. Eating mean not necessarily food. It can also mean what are the items we accumulate. If you go to a person's house, by his house, whatever he has accumulated in the house, we can tell what kind of a person he is. So ahara means what is he gathering for his existence. And then sacrifice, how is he utilizing them, yajna, and to what kind of troubles he is undertaking. And once he gets the results, how he is distributing the results with others, sharing the results with others. Even the thief also sometimes he becomes charitable. Krishna will describe the three types of each of these four items. These four items we have to note: ahara or food, sacrifice or yajna, austerity or tapa, charity or dhana. Penance means austerity means you do, you want to do something but you avoid it. Penance means you don't want to do, but you do it. Now, what about food in the mode of goodness? Ayu Sattva Balarogya. This is very important. Ayu means it increases the lifespan. Whatever food increases your lifespan. If you consult Ayurveda, they tell you very clearly these foods prolong lifespan, these shorten your lifespan, or they affect your health. Sattva, Ayu Sattva Balarogya. Bala means strength, Arogya means health. So, Sattva foods, they increase one's lifespan, purity. Sattva means purity, Bala means strength, health means Arogya. Sukha Preeti Vivardhana. Sukha means happiness, Preeti means satisfaction, Vivardhana means increase. These foods increase happiness and satisfaction, lifespan, purity, strength, and health. And Rasyaha. Rasya means juicy. Because unless there's juice in the food, we cannot digest it properly. And snigdaha means fatty. Fatty means it should be like a milk. It's a fatty substance. Then easily digestible. And stira means wholesome. It should be a balanced meal. And hridya means pleasing to the heart. It should not agitate the heart. Some food, if after eating you become so agitated in thinking and talking and everything. So it should calm the person's heart. And ahara satvika priyaha. Such are the foods dear to people in the goodness. Then what about food in the mode of passion? Katva, amla, lavana, ushna. Katva means bitter, excessively bitter. Some bitter foods are required, but excessively bitter is not good. And amla means, amla we know we use amla, that is gooseberry. So that is sour. And lavana means salty. And ushna means hot. Hot means very spicy, too spicy. And tikshna means pungent. It's very strong odor is there. And ruksha, dry. It's so dry that saliva is not produced in the mouth. And vidhahinaha means burning. It produces a burning sensation in the stomach. Ahara rajasya shyeshta are dear to those in the mode of passion. Naturally, they like these foods. And dukkha shokamaya pradaha. So what do they cause? They cause distress, dukkha. Shokamaya means lamentation. After eating, they're wondering why I ate this. I should not have eaten this. Before eating, they're so voracious, they want to eat it. After eating, they're thinking why I ate this. Lamentation. Pradaha, disease. It produces disease. They can see the effects immediately. What about food in the mode of ignorance? Yata yamam gatarasam. Yata yamam means stale food. Stale food means it is cooked long back and you're eating it now. And gata rasam means tasteless. Gata means gone. What has gone? Rasam, tasteless. It is not tasteless anymore. When it was cooked, maybe fresh, it has some taste, but it loses its taste. Puti means bad smelling. Parishitam, decomposed. Cha and Uchishtam, consisting of remnants. Supposing some other animal is eaten, you kept it in your house, you didn't notice it, some rat has eaten, a cat or dog has eaten it, or some other diseased person has eaten it. Consisting of remnants, Uchishtam api chamedyam, untouchable things. Amedyam means untouchable things like meat, fish, and eggs. These are said to be untouchable. Bhojanam means food. Tamasa priyam, dear to those in the mode of darkness. So it may be a little unpleasant to hear all this, but at least we should accept the fact. Then slowly the change will come. That also Krishna explains how to come out of this habits. Remnants of food may be eaten only when they are first offered to the Supreme Lord or eaten by saintly person. But there is an exception to this eating of remnants. For example, we offer food to the Lord. That is also one kind of a remnant. God has eaten it. That's why that Prasad Tirupati Laddu has a special taste. So that can be offered even if it is late. For example, you get Tirupati Laddu 1 week and you eat it after 10 days also, provided it's not got spoiled, you can eat it. Or a spiritual master has eaten it, or guru has eaten it, and then they give it as Mahaprasad. For example, in Jagannath Puri temple, they offer the prasad to Vimala Devi, and then the Lord Shiva is there. That is known as Mahaprasad, and then only it is sold to the public. So, which means it is already offered to someone, but because they are saintly persons, when we accept that, we get some benefit. The Vaishnava devotees do not any food not offered to the Supreme Lord, even if it is food in goodness. Now, one may say even there are herbivorous animals. Herbivorous means they also eat only plants. They are not carnivores. But are they devotees? No, just because you are eating vegetarian food, you cannot claim that you are a devotee. That food also has Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam, Krishna says. You will offer me a fruit, flower, pushpam, flower, water, and leaf with a devotion. So, even whatever foods we are, vegetarian food, because it is given by God, we have to first offer it to the Lord and then only accept it for our purification. Now, next talks about the sacrifices in the three modes. Sacrifice means something we give up to get something. What is sacrifice in goodness? Performed according to the scripture. That is the first qualification. As a matter of duty, which means we are obliged to follow it. There's no choices. Without desire for material results. In other words, scriptures, they are always talking about our long-term benefit. So there you cannot bargain. Okay, I did this, I didn't see the benefit immediately, so why I should do? Huh? It's not like that. We invest in some things, we don't get the benefits immediately. We invest in teak wood plantations. The teak wood doesn't produce immediately, it takes some time. Sugarcane we plant it doesn't come immediately. So similarly, we should not desire for material results in order to follow the scriptures. We have to wait for the benefits to come. They may not come the way we want it. So if someone is still following scriptures, then he's sacrificing in the mode of Buddha. What is he sacrificing? Sacrificing his tendency to go away from the scriptures. That tendency is sacrificing. What about sacrifice in passion? Performed for some material benefits in this world or elevation to heaven. So there are some people, for them, the motivation for doing sacrifice is benefits. If I sacrifice this, I will get something. Immediately, I get this benefit. Or for the sake of pride, just to put on a show before others that as I'm doing something for you or I'm doing something for myself. So, to boost their pride, they do sacrifice in the mode of passion. What about ignorance? Performed without regard or the direction of scripture. They blindly ignore the scripture without distribution of prasadam or spiritual food. In other words, whenever we are doing some sacrifice, we depend on others to do the sacrifice also. It's not that I am the only person doing the sacrifice. So, if having taken help from so many people, if I don't distribute the benefit of the sacrifice to others, then it's also said to be in the mode of ignorance. Without chanting of Vedic hymns, because whatever sacrifice you may do, it's always having some imperfections in that. So to make it perfect, you have to chant the Vedic hymns. But if someone does sacrifice without chanting Vedic hymns, that is also said to be in the mode of ignorance. And without remuneration to the priest, there are some priests you engage them to do these sacrifices, and if you don't pay them properly, that's also said to be in the mode of ignorance, and ultimately done without faith. Which means blindly you're doing something. Then what about the austerity? Austerity, again, I said austerity means you have a tendency to do something, but somehow you restrain yourself. Austerity, first of all, Krishna talks about the three types of austerity. One is the austerity of the body. Deva Dvija Guru Prakna Pujanam Shaucham Arjavam Brahmacharyam Ahimsacha Shariram Tapuchyate. What is the austerities we have to do with the body? First is worship of the Supreme Lord. That is Deva Dvija. Deva means the Supreme Lord. Dvija means twice born, or the Brahmanas. Why twice born? Because they have studied the scriptures. They accepted a spiritual master. So Deva Dvija, Guru means spiritual master, and Pragna means superiors. Deva Dvija Guru Pragna, who are the Pragna? Parents. Pujanam means we have to worship them. That is the first austerity of the body. Shaucha means cleanliness of the body. We have to keep our body clean externally and internally. And Arjava means simplicity. We should make our life as simple as possible. Simplicity is the best policy. Otherwise, we unnecessarily complicate our life and others. Brahmacharya means celibacy. Celibacy means to be focused on self-realization. Celibacy can be practiced even in the married life. It's not necessarily only the unmarried person is a celibate. Real celibacy means following the scriptures, acting according to the scriptures. Of course, unmarried life is favorable. Ahimsa means non-violence. As we discussed earlier, non-violence means both we should not give physical harm to others, and also we should not give mental harm to others. And thirdly, we should not allow a person remain spiritually ignorant. We have to help him to come up in spiritual life. And Sharinam Tapuchyate, all these constitute the austerity of the body. Next is austerity of the speech. Anudvega karam vakyam. Anudvega means agitating. Karam means uh, causing agitation. Vakya means speaking words that do not agitate others. We should speak in such a way that we do not agitate others, disturb others unnecessarily. Satyam Priya Hitam Chayat. What should we speak then? Satyam, we should be truthful. At the same time, it should be pleasing. The truth should be palatably presented. Hitam, beneficial. Sometimes you will not be able to speak in a pleasing way. The truth has to be told bitter way. If it is beneficial, we are entitled to speak the truth then, even if it is not pleasing. And swadhyaya, so that person also should be accepting the benefit. If I tell someone and is not interested, then no point in telling it to you. Swadhyaya Vyasanam. According to the Vedic literature, Swadhyaya means regular recitation of the Vedic literature. Unless we keep on reciting something, it will not imbibe in our consciousness. Chaiva, Yan Mayam, Van Mayam Tapo Uchyate. Van means walk means speech. Van Mayam Tapo Uchyate. Speaking words that do not agitate others, that are truthful, pleasing, beneficial, and regular recitation of Vedic literature. When we recite Vedic literature, just like in the beginning of the class, we are reciting the entire chapter. So by recitation, our thoughts get purified. All these constitute the austerity of speech. What about austerity of the mind? Manaprasada saumyatvam. Manaprasada means satisfaction. We should try to do something which will keep our mind peaceful. Saumyatvam means simplicity, without duplicity. Simplicity, which means we should be straightforward and not to cheat others. Of course, we can be sometimes diplomatic, but that should not become our main goal. Mauna means silence. What is silence? Huh? Silence is golden, we say. So we should know when to talk and when not to talk. That is silence. It doesn't mean you keep silent all the time, Mauna Brata. We have to speak, but we should know when to speak and when not to speak. That comes through gravity. Gravity means when we know the value of things which we are talking. Every word we have to weigh and talk. That is known as gravity. You should know the importance of the subject we are talking. Then Maunam Atma Vinigraha. Atma Vinigraha means self-control. We always should be conscious about that I am the soul. Bhava Samshuddhir Ityetat. Purity of the heart. Bhava means also given the heart. Purity of the heart or consciousness. Tapa Manasam Uchyate. Satisfaction, simplicity, gravity, self-control, purity of heart are the austerities of the mind. So mind's austerity is to detach from unnecessary sense gratification. The mind is always giving us many options. But using our intelligence, we should learn to discriminate. It should be so trained. So mind requires training. That's what Krishna told to Arjuna in the 6th chapter. By suitable practice and detachment, the mind should know what to think about, and it should be trained that it can always think of doing good for others. Only when we do good to others, we can expect someone to do good to others. So these three austerities, austerity of the mind, austerity of body, austerity of the speech, can also be categorized in the three modes. So austerity in goodness is performed with the transcendental faith, which means faith is beyond the three modes, not expecting material benefits only for the sake of the supreme. You're always keeping a higher goal in mind. You are seeing who is the supreme authority, just like you offer food to the stomach or offer water to the root and then satisfies the entire tree or the whole body. Similarly, we should know that I should perform this austerity to satisfy the supreme authority. That is in the mode of goodness. Austerity in passion is performed out of pride, for respect, honor, and worship from others. It is neither stable nor permanent. Austerity in ignorance is performed out of foolishness, with self torture, or to destroy or injure others. There's no kamikaze culture. In the Japanese, in the Second World War, they used to drive the airplane in such a way they will go and crash the aircraft in the enemy camps. So to destroy or injure others. Then what about charity in the three modes? Charity and goodness given out of duty, which means the scripture is telling you have to give charity to so and so people. Okay, you do that without expectation of return, because we cannot expect a return to come exactly the way we want it. The scriptures are telling us to do something means that benefit can come in a different way at the proper time and place. and to a worthy person. Time, place, and candidate. Desha, Kala, and Patra. So this charity also cannot be done at a whimsically at improper time, improper place, and to an unworthy person. That is also scriptures are giving in detail. Charity in passion is given with expectation of reciprocation, with a desire for fruitful results in grudging mood unwillingly. After giving the charity, we start regretting, oh, I should not have given him. By mistake, I gave him. Or you take back what you gave. So this is all charity in the mode of passion. Charity in ignorance is given at an impure place. For example, a person is going to the liquor shop, he's going to drink or he's going to buy a cigarette and you go and give it to him. He's going to the gambling house and you're giving him. So these are all said to be impure places. Charity in ignorance given at an impure place at an improper time to undeserving persons without disregard and discourtesy. With disregard and discourtesy. Yeah, as if you're throwing on his face. Now Krishna will explain that all defects can be removed by chanting Om Tat Sat, the names of Lord Vishnu. So you may say, having heard about charity, having heard about the austerity and the foods and sacrifice. So now what is the solution? So therefore Krishna says we have to chant the names of Lord Vishnu. And what is the conclusion? Uh, the what is the right way of performing sacrifices, charity, austerity, and partaking of the foods? So Krishna tells about Om Tat Sat. Om Sat Sat means three words indicate the supreme absolute truth. First of all, we have to understand what is the supreme absolute truth. What is relative truth and what is supreme absolute truth. Supreme absolute truth, as I said, is Sat Chit and Ananda Vigraha. Uh, these are chanted by the Brahmanas. Brahmanas means who are acting on the Brahman platform, on the spirit platform. So they are chanting the names of Vishnu. Vishnu means transcendental goodness, Vishuddha Sattva. So during sacrifice for the satisfaction of the Supreme. In other words, whatever we do, we should see whether it will please the Supreme Lord. Just like you're working for a company, you have to ultimately please the boss of the company. So ultimately, everything is being provided by God. So we should see whether we are acting according to Him. And that's why we have to consciously remind ourselves by chanting Om Tat Sat. Om is always, Om means three parts are there, A, U and Im, which means the living entity, the Supreme Lord and the internal energy of the Lord. That's why we chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. It is always chanted in the beginning by those who perform sacrifice, charity and austerity in accordance with the spiritual regulations to attain the Supreme. So these sound vibrations, Om Tat Sat, they have subtle potency. Sound has such potency that they can purify. Just like we use ultrasonics to purify. Hmm? Uh, so this Om Tat Sat, they are transcendental sounds. They are a combination of some syllables uh, which can produce some spiritual effects. And first among this, Om. Then Tat means uttered by persons aspiring for liberation. That is the, we have to Sambandha Abhideya Prayojana. Sambandha means what is my relationship with God? How to act in that relationship? What is the goal of the relationship? So this Tat means we are constantly reminding that first we have to please the Supreme Lord and we have to please the Supreme Lord by acting according to His direction. From so uttered by person aspiring for liberation from material entanglement, perform sacrifice, asking charity without desiring for it. In other words, they make it their goal to satisfy the Supreme Lord or follow the scriptures or act according to the scriptures. Then whatever Sat, Sat is used to indicate the absolute truth, Sadbhave, and also the knower or seeker of the absolute truth. Ultimately, by performing all these things, we should realize God. Because if we realize God, then we realize ourselves and we realize the material nature. Uh, all auspicious works of sacrifice, charity, and austerity are performed to please the Supreme Person. Any work dedicated to the Lord is permanent and is called Sat. It's asat. So any sacrifice, charity, or austerity done without faith in the Supreme is impermanent. So if we don't follow the scriptures, we will be forced to change our faith and practices. It is called asat. In other words, we won't get any permanent benefit. We won't get any permanent happiness. We won't get any permanent existence or knowledge. So it is useless both in this life and the next. So this is the last verse. Asraddaya kutam dattam tapastaptam kritam chayat asat ityuchyate partha nachate nathat kretya no iha. Thank you very much. Any comments or questions?
Prabhuji,
Yes.
In the beginning, you have said that Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya, Jnanamaya. Please tell me, please repeat once again.
So I explained that to say why food is mentioned first. Food in the three modes, we talked about that. So when we are born, first we are food conscious. Maya means conscious. What are we conscious about? Initially, we are conscious about food only. We are interested in food. That is known as Annamaya consciousness. That is more or less like an animal. Then we start thinking. That is known as Manomaya. Our mind starts accepting, rejecting. That's why we see children are very particular. They want this, they don't want something. Then that is known as Manomaya. They are mind conscious. We are always, our mind is also material. Then we become Jnanamaya. That is, we are inquisitive. We are trying to become intelligent. Then, but there's realized knowledge, realized intelligence. That is, with practice, we get Vijnanamaya. So, Annamaya, Manomaya, then Jnanamaya and Vijnanamaya. So, on the Vijnanamaya platform, one starts realizing that he is the soul and not the body. But that is not also enough, because the nature of the soul is Satchit Ananda. He wants bliss. So that is possible by Anandamaya platform. Anandamaya means we have to be fully fixed in devotional service.
Pranamaya?
Yeah, so first Annamaya, then Pranamaya. That I missed this point actually. The child, when it's born, it doesn't know about death also. Even if a snake is on it, it doesn't know that snake will bite me and I will die. But the moment the child grows a little further, it becomes conscious. Oh, this will harm me. That fear is there. But the moment where sometimes the goat is there, it is peacefully eating grass. It is in a butcher shop, but it doesn't know that it is the next in queue to be killed. So it is not pranamaya conscious, it is only annamaya conscious. Because it is only thinking about the grass. The goat is eating the grass and is happy. It doesn't know the next moment I am going to be killed. So that is when it comes to that level, some animals they know that okay, I am going to be killed. So they start crying also. So that is pranamaya. Then comes manomaya. The person knows that his life in danger, but he cannot analyze. So, but when he becomes to analyze, then he becomes the manomaya. Then he may know, but still he is not able to act. Sometimes he is successful, sometimes he is not successful because he has not developed the jnanamaya. But he is succeeding, but he is not getting the ultimate success. Ultimate success is to solve the problem permanently. That is possible only when he realizes that he is the soul. But solving problems in life is not enough. We have to get ultimate happiness, and that happiness comes through devotion. Okay, so this 17th chapter we'll discuss in detail in the coming Monday to Friday, evening 7 to 8 in English and Hindi sessions. You are welcome to join. Next session will be the 18th chapter, but 18th chapter is a very long chapter. It is the conclusion of the perfection of renunciation. Perfection of renunciation means having taught everything. Now people say, I want a practical application of Bhagavad Gita. You cannot practice Bhagavad Gita unless you know about it and understand it. First, that's why uh, we are going in detail. And the 18th chapter is telling about, okay, theoretically we understood Bhagavad Gita, now how to practice it, what I should do and what not to do. Under certain situations, what you are allowed to do may not be allowed in certain situations. So how to discriminate that? Well, that's why Krishna will talk about the details. A very long chapter, longest chapter. So what we have done, just like we divided the second chapter into two sessions, we will divide into two parts. First part we will do next Saturday, and after that the remaining. So thank you for joining us. If you don't have any further questions, we'll end the session here. Yes, Paresh Prabhu, you can end. Harish Prabhu, you are there? Can you end the session?
Yes, I can.